Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. The Blue Silver Emperor shook. He was astonished as he stared at Huo Yuhao with eyes made from vines. I didn't expect your spiritual power to be so strong. Strong spiritual undulations were released from the Blue Silver Emperor and reflected onto Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao sensed every single change that happened to the entire mountain valley. The Blue Silver Emperor used himself as an intermediary to connect with every blue silver grass in the mountain valley. One human and one soul beast looked at each other and smiled. They felt each other's sincerity. At the same time, they picked up speed and rose into the sky. The Blue Silver Emperor sighed. If your martial soul was compatible with mine, I might have chosen you. You are very strong. Although my innate abilities can't compare to many powerful soul beasts, blue silver grass have very acute senses. From your body, I can sense that you have a bright future. Huo Yuhao chortled and replied, when you see my friend, you won't be disappointed. Her martial soul is a blue silver emperor. You should know that there are very few humans that can cultivate blue silver grass. There was one person who managed to successfully do so in the past, and this person was very powerful. That person is also my elder. The Blue Silver Emperor nodded and said, I know who you're talking about. Oh? Huo Yuhao was a little astonished as he looked at the Blue Silver Emperor. You know about him? The Blue Silver Emperor nodded and replied, although our species is small and weak, our life energy is actually the most prosperous among all plants. We also have the highest population among all the plant species in this world. Our roots are connected by our spiritual senses. This is why we can sense if anything big happens to one of us. It is almost as rare to find blue silver grass that can cultivate as it is to find a human soul master with a blue silver grass martial soul. It requires great fortune. We can only cultivate if we are aided by the power of heaven and earth. I was baptized thrice by heavenly lightning. The power of the lightning spirit exists in my body, which has completely transformed me. I'm also aware of the person you're talking about. She had the purest lineage, and was of royal blood. That individual you are talking about is her kid, who broke free from the restraints of this world and became a god. Speaking of her, I think it's only right that I address her as Your Majesty. Huo Yuhao didn't expect that the Blue Silver Emperor had such a connection with Tang San's mother. This was a good thing. This helped to close the gap between them. It seems like all of you have a deep history with my elder. My friend is the current sect leader of the Tang sect, which was established by Tang San. Speaking of her, she's a direct descendant of Tang San. It seems like the Tang sect has a great affinity with your species. Oh? That's actually the case. That's great then. The Blue Silver Emperor was feeling in better spirits now. After witnessing the immense spiritual power that Huo Yuhao unleashed, he was now very confident in this mission. Plant-type soul beasts were much more simple-minded compared to animal-type soul beasts. However, they were much more sensitive. From Huo Yuhao, he could sense kindness and justice. In addition, the Emperor Beast also played an important role in his decision. This was why he made his decision without thinking too much about it. Now that he heard this, he felt that his decision was the perfectly right choice. Right now, they were already high up in the air. Huo Yuhao and Tang Wutong picked up speed at the same time. Flying was naturally not the Blue Silver Emperor's strength. However, this wasn't a major problem. Huo Yuhao held Tang Wutong with one hand and the Blue Silver Emperor with his other hand. To give the Blue Silver Emperor even more confidence, Huo Yuhao increased his speed and flew along the south of the Sun Moon Empire towards the Star Luo Empire. He was lightning quick and rapidly reached supersonic speed. After the series of blows that had been dealt to them, the Sun Moon Empire withdrew all its defenses to Radiant City. It was even possible to claim that they had temporarily given up on their defenses in the outer cities. No more aerial surveillance soul tools were in place to carry out surveillance. It was a far smoother journey than Huo Yuhao had expected. Since they were far from Radiant City, they didn't run into any trouble. Very soon, they entered the Star Luo Empire's borders, and proceeded straight to Shrek City. A flag was flying high in the Heavenly Soul Empire. There was an army within the borders of the empire, but it was extremely large. On an extremely large flag, an image of a golden sun and silver moon was shining brightly. The soldiers were lined up in one single file, which extended for hundreds of kilometers in the Heavenly Soul Empire, or rather, the Sun-Moon Empire. This was because the Heavenly Soul Empire had ceased to exist. This army consisted of more than 700,000 soldiers. Most of the Sun-Moon Empire's elite soldiers were here. From afar, the army looked like a giant dragon. The formation that it adopted was very complex, but it completely and perfectly covered the perimeter of a massive military base. Even by scanning from above, it was impossible to tell how many soul formations there were in this base. The only certainty was that it was completely closed off to people. This was the border. However, it wasn't just the border of the Heavenly Soul Empire. At the same time, it was the border of the Douling and Star Luo Empires. At a corner of this border less than 100 kilometers from where the army was stationed was Shrek City. There was a gold-red commander's tent that was more than 10 meters high in this base. More than 1,000 people could fit into this tent without it being overcrowded. But at this moment, there were very few people in the tent. Juzi was in the main seat. She was dressed in fiery red armor. The phoenix image on her armor seemed real and alive. It wasn't just ordinary armor. It was custom-made for her, and Kong Deming was the one who personally came up with this human-shaped soul tool. It wasn't used for attacking, but it was extremely effective for defensive purposes. Kong Deming told Juzi that even an ultimate Doluo would need more than 3 strikes to overcome the defenses of this human-shaped soul tool. Juzi had 6 subordinates with her. The youngest one was already a middle-aged man. There were 3 elders among the 6 too. Every one of them exuded a strong aura. However, they didn't move a single inch. Occasionally, they would glance at Juzi. They were all in admiration of her. Juzi was holding onto a letter. Between the 6 of them, there was even a guy who was kneeling on one knee. The letter had been brought here by this man, an envoy from Radiant City. The letter wasn't very long. She finished reading it very quickly. After she finished, she put it down, and her brow furrowed. After this, she stood up. After she stood up, the 6 subordinates unwittingly took a step back, and opened up some space in the middle for her. A person, especially someone who commanded a huge army, who held an important position for a long time, would gradually develop some kind of might and dominance. This was the same for Juzi. After she became the War God Empress, her temperament completely changed. She became more reserved, but also more majestic. She slowly walked down. She kept thinking and pondering as she walked. There wasn't a single sound in the tent. Everyone was fixated on her, and they waited silently. After a brief moment, Juzi stopped and asked the envoy, what were His Majesty's instructions? The envoy said, War God Empress, His Majesty said that everything will be decided by you. Juzi squinted and nodded. She said, all right, you can leave. I'll need to think of how to reply to His Majesty. Yes. The envoy respectfully took his leave. Whoever waited between 6 Class 9 Soul Engineers would undoubtedly be subjected to immense pressure. He couldn't wait to leave. Juzi returned to her seat and said, His Majesty has sent news that the Empire was attacked by an unknown enemy. More than 10 cities were plundered. Even Radiant City was attacked. The enemies used some kind of special method to sneak to a place near Radiant City before firing thousands of low-grade cannon shells. They even used a Class 9 Soul cannon shell. The Imperial Palace was breached, and heavy damage was incurred. As the Sun-Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion was sent to search for these enemies, and was not in the capital, these enemies weren't caught in time. Their whereabouts are currently unknown. Preliminary investigations reveal that there were at least 2 Soul Engineer Legions. Elder Kong said that these enemies might possibly be able to conceal themselves and possess spatial abilities. After hearing Juzi's words, the 6 Class 9 Soul Engineer's expressions changed. What was the greatest fear of an army? It was that things weren't stable at the back. Under normal conditions, things at the back could be stabilized by sending some reinforcements back. They were now in control of the Heavenly Soul Empire. Although they weren't afraid of a lack of reinforcements, internal instability within the empire would affect proceedings at the front line. One elder who was standing at the left said, "Marshal, we must not let news of this spread. We must seal all information." Qiu'er nodded and said, "Whatever I say will stay between the 7 of us. What do you think?" The elder who had just spoken commented, "It's unbelievable. It's impossible." Qiu'er revealed a weird look on her face. "I have the same thought too. There are many aerial surveillance soul tools around the empire. Perhaps the 3 empires of the original Doluor continent can come up with 2 soul engineer legions. However, they shouldn't be too strong. Concealment and spatial abilities. This is a joke. Even our empire hasn't come up with something like that. How did they manage to do so?" An elder on the right said, "Marshal, perhaps it's the doing of some powerful soul masters." Qiu'er answered, "In Elder Kong's analysis, he mentioned that powerful soul masters can conceal themselves using soul skills. However, if they are bringing along 2 soul engineer legions with 300 heavy cannons, that is completely impossible. Currently, they are unsure of how the enemies managed to do so. However, the problem is that the enemies are unpredictable. It's difficult to track them. This time, we are the ones suffering because of a lack of surveillance and intelligence." The Sun Moon Empire's absolute fighting ability was not the only reason they were able to win all their battles and eventually conquer the Heavenly Soul Empire. Their incredibly powerful surveillance and counter-surveillance abilities were also important contributing factors to their victories. When the war had just started, the Heavenly Soul Empire was actually able to put up a decent fight. After all, it had a huge amount of reserves as an old empire. In addition, it had the support of the body sect, which gave it a significant boost in its capabilities. However, their blows were often useless against the Sun Moon Empire. For strange reasons, they were always unable to deal a heavy blow to the Sun Moon Empire. On the other hand, the Sun Moon Empire was always able to identify the crucial weaknesses within the Heavenly Soul Empire and deal heavy blows based on these weaknesses. Over time, the Heavenly Soul Empire could only succumb to its demise. This time round, the blows which were suffered by the inner parts of the Sun Moon Empire were like a mirror image of the battle between the Sun Moon Empire and the Heavenly Soul Empire. However, even until now, they were still unable to determine where exactly their enemies were. However, Qiu'er saw an extremely familiar name on the letter. Huo Yuhao. There was only one piece of information, which was certain from the message that was handed over to them from Radiant City. And that information was Huo Yuhao's name. Yuhao, was that really you? Even though Qiu'er was thinking about him, her face remained calm and composed. The old man on the left said, "This is truly a big problem. We must figure out what exactly is going on soon. Otherwise, we have no way to determine what our next course of action should be. Marshal, we must not retreat in times like this. Now that our troops have rested for a good 10 days after taking over the whole of the Heavenly Soul Empire, our morale is at its peak. This is the best time for us to attack, no matter where we strike. If we allow the internal affairs of our empire to influence our decision, we will not be able to achieve as much as we want. This is the perfect time to conquer the whole continent." Qiu'er nodded gently. The old man on the right also nodded. He said, "Our Majesty has the protection of the Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. As long as they stay within Radiant City will never fall. Even if those soul engineers were able to infiltrate our territory, their numbers are ultimately limited. They can only do so much damage to our installations with their 2 soul engineer legions. However, we have millions of troops at our command. We can definitely do more damage than them. Elder Su, watch your words." Qiu'er frowned as she reprimanded him. Elder Su revealed a faint smile and said, "When the general is away from the emperor, the general must make decisions based on his or her own discretion. Marshal, You must be decisive, and not allow this matter to affect you. I believe His Majesty will understand your decision. Our tactics are already finalized. If we were to make any amendments now, it would truly be disadvantageous for all of us. Juzi sighed and said, Of course I know what things are like right now. However, how can we fight confidently when our Majesty is in danger? I believe all of you are elders within the Hall of Consecration. I need some time to think this through. We should not rush out a decision on important matters like this. Otherwise, even if we were to emerge victorious on the front lines, we will still be scolded by the masses when we return to the Sun-Moon Empire. Who would dare to do that? Elder Su was obviously an ill-tempered old man. He immediately strode forward as his aura surged. He said coldly, You have been serving the Empire wholeheartedly, and have put your female body at the front lines. We were only able to achieve all that we have with your intelligent tactics. If those old fools try to be funny, I will kill their entire families. Even though his words were very extreme, the 5 other Class 9 Soul Engineers in the tent did not go against him. Instead, they nodded gently. They might not share the same ill temper as him, but they all agreed with what he said. Juzi stood up as her face revealed a gentle smile. She nodded towards the 6 Class 9 Soul Engineers and said, I thank you all for your support. I will try my best to make a decision as soon as possible. The troops must not catch wind of this news. I will need all 6 of you to keep this a secret. Roger. The 6 Class 9 Soul Engineers answered as they bowed before her. The first worshipped on the left nodded and said, Marshal, we shall leave you to rest. We will now take our leave. Regardless of your decision, we will definitely support you. Okay. The 6 worshipped left one by one, leaving Juzi alone in the humongous commander's tent. As Juzi sat on her seat, the fearsome and authoritative look on her face started to fade. Now, she started to look like a lady once again. She sat there in a daze for a good long moment before standing up again. She moved over to the sand model at the side of the tent before strategizing their next move. The Sun-Moon Empire army she was leading was currently in a very special position. This position granted her 3 different options. The first and most direct option was to attack Shrek City. However, everyone knew that this was not the wisest decision. Juzi was naturally able to see the problems the Prime Minister had identified. In addition, she really wanted to avoid any conflict with Shrek Academy. She knew how important it was to him. After the previous incident where her son was abducted, she had changed a lot. A lot of the things she used to value were now viewed with less importance. And some of the things she had tried her best to suppress in the past were now gushing from her heart. There were several delicately crafted little flags on the sand model. Those flags were important chess pieces, which she had laid out across their area of operation. Most of them were gathered at the border of the Star Luo Empire. No one could really understand the intentions behind her strategic arrangements. Even though the 6 worshipped could guess what she was trying to do, they were ultimately guesses. From the current situation, it was wisest for them to attack the Star Luo Empire. This was because both the Star Luo Empire and the Heavenly Soul Empire bordered the Sun-Moon Empire. By conquering the Star Luo Empire, 4/5 of the entire continent would belong to the Sun-Moon Empire. Of course, the Star Luo Empire could not be compared to the Heavenly Soul Empire. Its area was similar to that of the Sun-Moon Empire, and was equivalent to the sum of the Heavenly Soul Empire and the Douling Empire. It was an empire which had lasted for 10,000 years, and no one really knew how many reserves and resources it had. The Star Luo Empire also had the White Tiger Duke waiting at the borders, with 100,000 troops ready for battle. Juzi had positioned 300,000 troops at the border of the Star Luo Empire. There was a Soul Tool deployment area for every 50,000 troops. Hence, they occupied 6 different locations of tactical importance. This arrangement kept the Star Luo Empire's troops at bay, as they did not dare to make any moves. At the same time, she had arranged for 2 Soul Engineer legions to be on standby to reinforce any group when necessary. The Star Luo Empire had tried to test the waters a few times, but had always returned in defeat. There was a similar arrangement at the Douling Empire. From the look of things, Juzi's army had already established their positions against all their enemies. They could advance to attack and retreat to defend at will. These were all accomplished by Juzi in just a few months. Before she had led the armies out for their conquest, she had already started making these arrangements. Even though the battle seemed very chaotic and messy, everything was, in fact, under her control. Juzi was not only adept at unorthodox military tactics. This time round, she had also displayed her ability to command and lead on the battlefield. She had only used 5 Soul Engineer legions to destroy the bulk of the coalition army formed by the Heavenly Soul Empire and Douling Empires. She was even able to restrict the abilities of the Shrek Academy and keep them from fighting at their full potential. The remaining troops of the Heavenly Soul Empire did not actually perish in the battle. They had merely retreated back into Shrek City after seeing how they were fighting a losing battle. After expanding, Shrek City was definitely capable of housing the 70,000-strong army. At the same time, it also accepted quite a few elites and powerful soul masters from the Heavenly Soul Empire. However, the troops from the Douling Empire could not retreat into Shrek City. After all, they still had to defend their empire. Hence, they had no choice but to return to the Douling Empire and defend their borders. In this short amount of time, Juzi was constantly running through possible permutations for her battle tactics in her head. The Star Luo Empire and the Douling Empire had been on high alert and extremely tense for the past few days, as they braced themselves for the Sun Moon Empire's attack. Conversely, her troops had been recharging and resting for the past 10 days. With their improved morale, they were in their best possible state. Yuhao, is it really you? Juzi muttered to herself. If it really is you, I wouldn't find it strange at all. It was a brilliant move you made there. How can a general act based on his or her own discretion? This is a complete joke. Xu Qianran would never stop controlling me even if I am at the front lines. She revealed a cold look on her face as she smiled. Xu Qianran, I wonder if you have been injured again. It seems like all of my preparations were appropriate. It's time to unveil some of these things. Yuhao, thank you for helping me create this condition. I will wait for you here. I am really looking forward to seeing you again. Even if it's on the battlefield. Whenever she mentioned Huo Yuhao's name in her heart, the coldness in her eyes would be replaced by a warm and loving look as a satisfied smile crept across her face. She gradually extended her right hand as she clenched her fist above the sand model. Everything was under her control. 2 hours later, the War God Empress orders started to pass around the entire army. Every single officer was to report to the commander's tent to receive their next set of orders. A very solemn and serious aura was emanating from the commander's tent. Juzi was wearing her armor and red gold helmet as she sat in her seat. There was another person seated on her left, who was completely concealed in a long black robe. Even though he had been trying to conceal it, the people around him could still sense a very creepy and frightening aura coming from his body. Another person was standing behind the man in black. If Huo Yuhao were here, he might be able to recognize her. She was none other than the vice leader of the Holy Ghost Church, Feng Ling. The only person who could get Feng Ling to stand behind him must be the leader of the Holy Ghost Church, Zhongli Wu. Yes, Zhongli Wu was actually at the front lines with the rest of the army. The other powerful cultivators of the Sun Moon Empire, including Jing Hongchen, were standing beneath Zhongli Wu and Feng Ling. Even though the cultivators from the Holy Ghost Church could not be seen, that did not mean they were not present. Another group of formidable individuals was standing on the other side. One of them was the leader of the 6th Class 9 Soul Engineers, who had met with Juzi previously. In total, there were more than 20 titled Doluor and Class 9 Soul Engineers within the commander's tent. Other than these individuals, the higher-ups from the armies were all present as they lined themselves up according to their ranks. They were the commanders of the hand that protects the nation, the 4 most powerful Soul Engineer legions in the Sun Moon Empire, the commanders of the normal Soul Engineer legions, and the other relevant commanders respectively. All of these people constituted the military leadership class within the Sun Moon Empire. Juzi nodded at the group of people before her and said, "After much rest, our army's morale is sky high. Now is definitely the best time for us to strike our enemies. Listen up. The 1st, 3rd, and 5th legions are to make their way towards Shrek City and besiege our enemies. The Evil Eye Soul Engineer Legion and the Terraclaw Soul Engineer Legion are to cooperate with their movements and set up camp 50 kilometers away from Shrek City. After establishing your Soul Tool deployment areas, get ready to attack the city. After the camps have been established by our legions, the rest of you will proceed according to our planned movement lineup and wait for further orders." After hearing Juzi's words, Zhongli Wu was startled. Previously, he had actually requested to use the troops on Shrek City after setting up camp here. However, Juzi had rejected his request. He did not expect the War God Empress to finally decide on attacking Shrek City. This was good news for the Holy Ghost Church. They had always viewed Shrek City as a thorn in their side. Even though he was a little surprised by her orders, Zhongli Wu was not against them. Hence, the army collapsed their tents and marched towards Shrek City with morale high. If the aura they were exuding were material, it would probably have crushed the city walls. By evening, the entire Sun Moon Empire army had set up camp 50 kilometers from Shrek City. They were able to surround half of the city. However, there was no reaction from Shrek City. Their doors remained firmly shut. As nightfall descended, a series of explosions awakened Shrek City. Lines of brilliant flames illuminated the dark sky as they formed a series of characters, which were visible from any corner in Shrek City. "Give us Huo Yuhao within 10 days, or we will kill everyone within the city." As he floated peacefully in the night sky, Huo Yuhao gazed at the bright characters in the sky and frowned. He was just about to reach the Shrek Academy after his long flight. It was not the kind of greeting he was expecting. "To hand me over in 10 days' time. Does the Sun Moon Empire actually want to trap Shrek City?" Tang Wutong was also surprised by the sight before them. She turned around and shot a puzzled look at Huo Yuhao. "Isn't Juzi the commander of the 3 armies? What is she planning to do?" Huo Yuhao shook his head. "Let's go. Let's discuss it after we return to the academy." As he spoke, he held on to Tang Wutong and the Blue-Silver Emperor before speeding off in the direction of Shrek Academy. With his imitation soul skill and spiritual interference domain, he was able to return to Shrek City without alarming anyone. Before he returned to the academy, he first headed back to the Tang sect. After stepping into the gates, he gathered all the higher-ups. This is, when Bei Bei saw the Blue-Silver Emperor, which was standing by Huo Yuhao's side, his jaw dropped. Even though he was not 100% sure that it was the Blue-Silver Emperor that could save Tang Wei's life, he was pretty confident that Huo Yuhao had managed to bring it back. Huo Yuhao said, "Eldest senior brother, the Sun Moon Empire has surrounded Shrek City. We should head over to the academy immediately. This is the Blue-Silver Emperor. I managed to find it in the Sun Moon Empire. Third senior brother, can I trouble you to prepare accommodations for him? Eldest senior brother, let's head over to the academy. After we have confirmed the situation at the academy, I will come back to treat teacher Xiao Ya." Bei Bei's excitement was apparent as his breathing became rapid. However, as the big brother within Tang sect, he was able to control his emotions and stay composed. He nodded and said, "All right. Let's head over to the academy." After leaving for such a long time, they were still not able to rest, even though they had just returned. Huo Yuhao, Bei Bei, and Tang Wutong ran towards the academy. The rest of them continued with the work, which had been left undone during the period of time when they had left the Tang sect. Very soon, Huo Yuhao, Tang Wutong and Bei Bei reached the academy. When they arrived at the gate, they were stopped by 2 figures which leapt in front of them. "Who are you?" The 2 youths were wearing the Shrek Academy uniform. They were only able to recognize the faces of Huo Yuhao and the rest after challenging them. Their eyes widened in disbelief as one of them exclaimed, "Senior Huo." Huo Yuhao nodded and said, "We are going to enter the inner courtyard. This night sentry duty thing has only been added recently, right?" It was important to note that the old Shrek Academy never closed their doors, even at night. They had never employed any defensive measures. That student nodded and replied, "That's right. Ever since the Heavenly Soul Empire fell, the Academy has been stepping up our security measures. We are going through very difficult times indeed." "What?" the three of them exclaimed in unison. None of them had known that the Heavenly Soul Empire had been conquered. After hearing the news from this student, they were all utterly shocked. No wonder the Sun Moon Empire could push their troops to Shrek City. The Heavenly Soul Empire has really fallen. Even though Huo Yuhao was not a citizen of the Heavenly Soul Empire, Bei Bei was. Suddenly, a heavy silence fell across the group. Tang Wutong broke the silence and asked, "Is there any procedure we need to undergo before entering the academy?" The two students did not dare to look straight at Tang Wutong's beautiful face. They shook their heads frantically. "No. No. Please proceed." The three of them entered the academy and arrived at Sea God's Lake. All of them leapt up at the same time and flew directly to Sea God's Island. The news of the Heavenly Soul Empire's fall was simply too shocking. Huo Yuhao could still remember the Heavenly Soul Empire's setup at the front lines when he personally visited that area previously. Even though they could not be compared to the Sun Moon Empire's powerful Soul Engineer legions, they should not have been able to be destroyed so quickly. Its demise meant that there was no longer a buffer between Shrek City and the Sun Moon Empire's troops. At the same time, it also meant that the Sun Moon Empire was one step closer towards their dream of conquering the entire continent. Next, they could target the Star Luo or Doling Empire as they wished. Things were truly looking bad for the other empires on the continent. Huo Yuhao and the others had thought that their efforts in the Sun Moon Empire could influence the battle at the front line. However, they did not expect the Heavenly Soul Empire to crumble so easily. This made their attempts to induce fear and panic within the Sun Moon Empire less effective than they could have been. Even though Huo Yuhao was frowning, he stopped at the golden tree and kneeled before it along with Tang Wutong. Bei Bei kneeled down as he joined them to pay their respects. "Teacher, we have returned. I hope we are not too late." Huo Yuhao kowtowed to the golden tree thrice as he greeted it respectfully. The Sea God's pavilion was well illuminated. When Huo Yuhao, Tang Wutong and Bei Bei walked into the hall, all of the elders were already there. There was also another familiar face present in the hall. She was none other than Princess Wei Na from the Heavenly Soul Empire. After seeing the three people walked in, Princess Wei Na could not help but stand up. Compared to the previous time they met at her, she seemed to have aged quite a bit. Her skin had lost its original youthful radiance, and her face had grown a lot paler. One could see the sadness and sorrow in her eyes. "Yuhao." Wei Na greeted softly as tears welled up in her eyes. After seeing that Princess Wei Na was present in the hall, Huo Yuhao felt an inexplicable sense of sadness in his heart. This meant that the Heavenly Soul Empire had really fallen to the Sun Moon Empire. If not, she would never have been able to break Shrek Academy's tradition and enter the hall as someone who was not a member of the Sea God's Pavilion. Elder Xian waved his hand at the three of them and said, "The three of you are just in time. Please sit." "Yes." Huo Yuhao answered politely as the three of them sat down. All the elders had very worried and solemn looks on their face. This was going to be one of the biggest challenges the Academy had ever faced. It was probably more difficult than the Beast Wave which started in the Great Star Do Forest previously. During the Beast Wave, Shrek Academy was at most involved in traditional combat. However, this time around, they were going up against some of the top soul tool technologies in the entire Doluo continent. No one would dare to say they were confident of winning this battle. Elder Xian looked at Huo Yuhao and asked, "Did you all see the fireworks outside?" Huo Yuhao nodded. To his surprise, Elder Xian actually revealed a gentle smile. Elder Xian said calmly, "You should be able to tell from the fireworks that your team has achieved a fair bit of success. Even though your operations in the Sun Moon Empire were not enough to get them to retreat, at the very least, they caused them some panic. If not, they would not have sent their troops to surround Shrek City. So why don't you share what all of you have done with us?" Ever since he had become an ultimate Doluo, Elder Qian had become a lot more composed and steady. In fact, Huo Yuhao felt that he was starting to resemble Elder Mu. Even though the current situation was extremely pressing, Elder Qian did not ask them for their opinions on how to handle their enemies. Instead, he asked them how their trip was, and whether they bumped into any significant problems. His wisdom was exemplified in his decision to change the topic so as to improve the tense atmosphere. Huo Yuhao said, "After leaving the academy, I headed directly to the Mingdo mountain range. Following which, I entered the Sun Moon Empire." As they listened to his story, the elders nodded along. They were particularly moved when he got to the part about their attack on the Radiant City, and how they had bombed the palace with a Class 9 stationary soul cannon shell. After hearing what Huo Yuhao said, the princess was so excited that she grabbed the edge of the table by her side. However, Huo Yuhao omitted the parts about the spectral demiplane during his report. After all, this was his greatest secret. No matter what, the princess was still an outsider. This video will end here.